Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Family Mix Mondays with your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Welcome back, Source Nation. Again, I am your host, Jaketra Bryant, and this is Family Mix Mondays. And as stated before the break, we are climaxing our series of intentional parenting. So tonight we have Reginald McCutchen in the studio live with me, and we'll be discussing balancing being a professional and a parent at the same time. But before he comes in and join me, let me tell you a little bit about him. So Reginald McCutchen, he received his undergraduate degree from Georgia Southern University and is a former football player. He also has his Master's of Education from Cambridge, and he continues to pursue higher education in behavior disorders, theology, and studies on family structure. He is currently a high school math teacher in Atlanta, Georgia, a track and field coach, and a mentor. And he's a father to an adorable, charming 6-year-old and one of my dearest friends. And so I do believe we have Reggie in the studio. So hello, Reggie, and welcome to Family Mix Mondays.
Hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Hi, thank you so much for coming on today. So why don't you tell Source Nation family a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I really appreciate you inviting me on your show. This is an awesome opportunity. You know, I love you to pieces. As mentioned, I have my undergraduate from Georgia Southern University, and I've been a student athlete pretty much most of my life since I was like 8 years old, and so sports runs deep in my family, and very, very family oriented growing up. My mother and father made plenty of sacrifices for me and my other siblings for us to balance our education along with our athletic abilities. And most importantly, keeping us in church and keeping our spirits high when times were rough. So currently, I'm a high school math teacher in Fulton County Schools at Banneker High School, which is located in South Fulton County. Socioeconomically, we're slated as far as academic proficiency as well, at the bottom 5% in the state of Georgia in regards to academic proficiency, poverty, Lexile scores, et cetera. So that's currently where I'm at, and I'm a member of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta as well for North Metro Chapter, where I'm a mentor coordinator there. And as you mentioned, I am a high school track coach and a full-time daddy to a 6-year-old boy named Mason. He's an awesome kid and with awesome parents, grandparents, I should say, and his mother is awesome as well. So that's currently where I'm at, and I'm sitting inside the car right now talking. I was earlier just leaving a track meet, and I'm just got on the show, so it's just a busy life and just loving every minute of it.
Thank you. Thank you again for being here. And so, Source Nation, if you are just tuning in, this is Reggie McCutchen, and he is our special guest to climax our series of intentional parenting. And the particular topic tonight is going to be balancing being a professional as well as a parent. And so if you would like to call and ask Reggie a question or myself a question, the phone lines are open, and the number to dial in is 619-924-0933 and press option 1. That's 619-924-0933 and press option 1. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right in on our topic. So, Reggie, I know that you have some experience not only as a father, but as an educator and some familiarity with behavior in our youth. And so what do you see as some common factors with your students who misbehave when it comes to, like, some reasons that they're actually, like, maybe misbehaving?
Well, I mean, it depends on what we consider behavior. Behavior is operant behavior. And there's several types of behaviors. It's a learned behavior or behaviors that we're born with, right? As far as just breathing out our nose and stuff like that. But most of our kids I deal with is actually have learned behaviors. Some of them just don't know what a misbehavior is. And we say that kids or environments or people or products of their environment. That can be true in so many different ways. If you have inmates that's incarcerated 23 hours a day, what kind of behavior do you expect out of them, right? Versus people that's in church all day long or doing whatever the case may be, what type of behavior would be expected from them. So, in the case in regards to where I wake up every day and go to school, as far as a common trend, as far as behavior, I think it goes without saying, the socioeconomic status of these kids and where they grow up at and where they're from and what do they know? What do they know? I only have them for 90 minutes a day. So the school has them for 6 hours a day. But they, as you may know, there's 24 hours in the day. Some of our kids go home and to no hot water, to no lights, and mothers are working, no father figures in the home. There are no corrective actions outside of the school. All right, we can correct them for not turning the homework or calling someone out their name, but as far as coming in late or whatever, that it's a balance between the two. But to answer your question, as far as a common theme, I think of the lack of a father figure in the home is a huge part of a kid that's quote unquote is a problem student or who's a student who displays misbehavior, which is easily correctable in my opinion with the right resources or right approach to these young men. As Frederick Douglass says, he says that it's easier to raise a strong child than repair a broken man. And every day we come to work, myself along with some other colleagues, that we just know it's our responsibility that, we have to raise these strong children versus we go into derailment hearings when they're 18, 19 years old and, and they become broken men. But currently 84% of my students in the last, 2 or 3 years now come from single-parent households. And in my master's degree, what I studied, I actually took a research study from a small target population in Cobb County, Chatham County, Fulton County, and DeKalb County. And we looked at the socioeconomic status and household incomes and stuff like that, and also parenting practices and also parent involvement, looking at parents who are single parents versus a parent that has, or a household that has both mother and father at home. So let's say a kid gets into a fight or throws a look at a teacher or whatever the case may be. Based on my research studies of 107 homes, that the parents that will actually intervene and actually discipline that child, is probably a 90% chance that the kid will retract that behavior and display positive behaviors in the future. Versus a young man, I was looking at the time, young men between ages 15 and 17 years old that would do the same behavior. And mother, on the single mother that's making $20,000, that they would side more towards the child. Asking more questions like what made my son throw this book at this person or start this fight or what he's getting picked on. So it was a more defense mechanism, because we have to understand that that young man is considered the next man of the house, and the mother is just so out of the loop at times, or sometimes they're just plain simply tired. They just don't have any other options but to support the child because they don't want the child to fall behind and get kicked out of school, because it's tough enough for our parents at times. So the primary source is 2 or 3 folds. One, a fact that a father figure is missing in the home. The parent involvement piece is humongous in regards to the mother or even a single father knows what's going on in the school, and also supporting the discipline actions that have been taken down or taken into account for the kid is a huge disproportion. It's a huge disproportion. And lastly, when we talk about, I don't want to go dive so deep into especially my background, but it's a huge thing going on right now as far as disproportionalities with our young African American men. Now that starts as early as grade school. So let's say that a 6-year-old like my son, right, that he just stays with his mom. I'm not around. His mom's a single parent. He acts out or whatever. They look at frequency and duration to diagnose any kid with any disability, range of specific learning disabilities to emotional behavior disorders to ADD, ADHD. Since the kid may act out and there's no intervention in between, if his mother did not intervene, that they would easily diagnose him with ADD, ADHD, EBD, and they'll receive these services throughout elementary school and middle school, and we're building the bridge for these kids to go absolutely nowhere. So it's plenty of factors. It's cultural factors. It's the education system in general in regards to disproportionalities. And I think, you know, as a 33-year-old black man, and also being in the wedge between the home and the school, and also these young men's social life, that a black male figure or any father figure is a primary source of a young man or even a young woman misbehaving in the absence of a father.
Yeah, I like the points that you make, just in reference to, like, what begins to happen, like this trend as far as, like, so now if somebody's absent or they start looking at these factors, and the system, unfortunately, immediately goes to, okay, this particular label is, like, your ADD or your ADHD, but, I mean, ignoring that there are lots and lots of factors that actually happen. So I'm so glad you made those particular points. And so that's one of the reasons why the show topic is about the balance, because I hear a lot of people constantly say that I hear them say that, like, man, I got to go to work and I got to be here, so how do you expect me to go to work, feed my kids, and be at their school plays or be doing their projects or anything like that and still be parenting? And so one of the things I have always admired about you is your involvement with your son and your involvement with schools and kids that are not even your children. And so that has been something that, like I really have admired about you. And so I was wondering, what do you think are some challenges you have with trying to maintain this balance as a professional and a parent?
Well, I think the main challenge is actually, you know, it's plenty of variables in that. You know, we talked off air yesterday as far as just the mind shift. Another topic we talked about, but it's a cultural transformation, you know, that you go through and the challenges that you deal with. Because, you know, truth be told, when my son was, you know, 1 or 2 years. Well, I'm sorry. Let me go back a little bit. Before my son was born, I was working retail, right? So I was coming home at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, during the holiday seasons and stuff like that. And I remember that she was about 6 or 7 months pregnant, and I felt her stomach and felt his little kick or whatever. And I knew at that particular time that I wanted to be a part of my son's life. And, you know, versus coming home at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I wanted to spend the summer times with him. I wanted to take him to see his nana and his papa down in Florida and to see his cousins and stuff like that. But it took a sacrifice. You know, I think the biggest challenge was more of a prerequisite challenge as far as a mindset challenge versus the challenges I'm handling right now, which I do have, and I can touch on them here in a second. But, you know, to come off making $40,000, I don't know, when I was 24 years old, which is like $1 million to some people, and to take a pay cut to $16,000 because, you know, I wanted to be in education to fulfill my calling and purpose, and to be a role model for my son. You know, I want my son. I look at my son like a young Timothy, you know, who's following the Apostle Paul, right? You know, he's a young guy. He needs experience, and I think my son is gathering this experience based on his culture, based on what things that he sees and he's exposed to. But the biggest challenge was making the financial decision to actually give up a lot to, in the future, gain much. And we've lived with 6 or 7 other people at a time. You know, I remember we had my mom gave me a Mazda Miata that was running, and it was no air conditioning or whatever. I got his car seat in the front seat, and it was leaking. And it was like a little mesh top, and it was a little leaking, and there's water dripping out of it. And, you know, we just made it do. I've been evicted a few times, and my cars have been repossessed, and, you know, God continued to make a way. But in regards to the current challenges, it's like as time goes by, my son understands more and more subconsciously of the sacrifices and things that we actually been through to get me in this position right now, because he didn't know that, you know, I had the opportunity to stay in retail and not have the time that I do spend with him now, which is at times is challenging because I do work with hundreds of kids, and I teach and I coach and I mentor and also I raise him, right? But, you know, the challenge was getting to know myself, you know, my capabilities and what I'm capable of doing. If I can't do it for my son 10 times as much as I could do it for my students, I don't need to be in this profession, you know. But oftentimes, sometimes my students need 10 times as much love than my son does, right? Because I mentioned that my kids, or 84% of my kids, don't have father figures in their lives. So the balance it can be tough at times, especially during this time of the year around track season, right? Sometimes my son, he's into going out to track practice with me, going to the track meets, but, he's 6, Daddy, it's too hot, whatever. But the great thing is we have a lot of family support. He has cousins and things of that nature, whatever. But he loves it. He loves going to our luncheons. He loves to be recognized. He loves to be a part of the things that I'm a part of, right? Because I believe in, what he sees is what he will be. I don't want him to be a track coach or educator or whatever. I want him to be whatever he wants to be, but he knows that we're selfish people. He knows that Daddy is doing this for a reason. He knows that, Jelani is staying upstairs right now because I got to take him to school the next day, or we got to go pick up a couple of these kids to go eat because we all going to eat dinner. And it doesn't even cross his mind the reason why we're doing these things. But my biggest goal for my son is to live his life to the fullest and to follow his calling and purpose. Because I really do believe, Jay, that who we are determines how we see others, and that's why I want to go back and say, hey, the biggest challenge is not the time. It's 24 hours in a day, right? I can get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can get things done earlier or later. I can be late to work, or I can not come in at all. But if I don't know myself, I don't know the reason why I'm waking up, the reason why I'm picking up my son, the reason why I'm making sacrifices. It's null and void. So I believe who we are determines how we see others. And if I feel like I am a faithful servant, if I feel like I'm a good father, if I feel like I'm a good person, I believe that my son is going to know himself and he's going to look at others the same way. But the day-to-day challenges is no different than someone who works at UPS, who's a truck driver, who doesn't have a chance, or that single mom. 84% of my kids who are single parents. I mean, it's no different. I think the only challenge I have is coming home and trying to cook and clean and do the quote-unquote motherly, wifely duties. But besides that, it's nothing for me and him to go grab us a burger, or even us, he help me out in the kitchen and we go eat. So it's no different. And I think I'm all for inclusion and a mother and a father raising a young kid or children. But I think the best thing that ever came out of this is the fact that we did have Mason out of wedlock that he don't know anything else. He don't know that that mommy and daddy live together or whatever. And it's mommy's house, it's daddy's house, and versus a 4-year-old watching mom and dad argue and they have to split the household up and this and another. Those things have catastrophic effects. But as far as daily challenges, as far as balancing my professionalism and also my, things I do with my son, I plan. Jay, hey, listen, we're at Six Flags. We do things. We out of town. Every time we get a chance that we're planning things, and I reward him to the utmost. And I spend just as much time with him than I do with all my other friends and also the students that I work with.
Yeah, I can relate. Because I have Christian. Christian's 9, and I can relate to those things. It's like trying to balance, and we got the radio now. I got trying to do the book, doctoral degree coming up. All those things are coming up, and I think one of my biggest challenges that I can definitely with you on relate is trying to do all of it and still give 100% in all of them, because we do know that the kids at the schools or my clients or another kid somewhere else, we do understand what they're missing and what that means. And so I think, that's something I could definitely relate on, trying to find that balance and knowing that even these kids will be okay, because I feel confident that Miss Mason will be okay and Christian will be okay, too.
Right.
And so,
right.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Especially with your schedule, man, with what you got going on there. We talked about it yesterday. I mean, it's like, that's a scary deal, and I like to look at it as, you raising a young black male, right? And, your challenges we might be doing the exact same thing, Jay, but your challenges and the things that you have to feed in him, right? It's not my challenges. They can go to the same school, whatever, but you're a black woman and I'm a black man. The things I see and the perceptions I see with these young black men, especially on TVs, things going on in the country right now, we still have the equal representation, equal responsibilities to make sure our kids are safe out of hurt, harm, and danger. But the reason why you're doing what you're doing right now is to align your calling to purpose. And your little man, he's an awesome kid. And and I bet you have the same exact challenges I have in regards to, like, hey, picking them up from soccer practice and this and that and the other. But I don't see immediate challenges in regards to what I do for a living and to what the time I do spend with him. I think it goes hand in hand. So kudos to you, because you're like everywhere. Like, you're doing an awesome job, and like you're a rock star, man. So I do have much respect for you in that.
Oh, thanks. So, Source Nation, if you're just tuning in, I do want to remind you that we are talking to Mr. Reggie McCutchen, one of my dearest friends, and we are talking about balancing being a professional as well as being a parent. And so if you would like to ask Reggie any questions, the number to dial in is 619-924-0933, and you can press option 1, and we'll be glad to take those. And so, Reggie, I wanted you to be able to help some of our Source Nation family listeners to try to figure out how to put this balance into perspective. And so how do you make sure that your parenting is the priority? Because, like, as you stated before, they're watching us, and, like, knowing the things that what would happen when Mason was 4, to even Christian being, like, not even knowing a lot of stuff with he and his dad. And so, like, how do you make sure that your parenting is a priority?
That's a great question. As far as prioritizing, like, some people over prioritize in regards to, it's all about perception, but I'm going to give it to you in a nutshell. Knowing that my son knows that, or I know that my parenting is a priority because we put the Lord first. We're at church every Sunday. Before he get in my car, he has to tell me 3 things that he learned, and we apply those things. Before we go to bed each and every night, that we do our little prayer, right? And I asked him, who gives you strength? He says, God. I said, what has to be strong? He says, my spirit and my mind. And I say, you have to do what you got to do. And he says, because I say, you got to do what you got to do. And he says, because if I can do what I want to do. And we give each other a hug and a kiss. Then, about a year ago, we start allowing him after that to pray himself. And I just asked him to talk to God and, just ask whatever you want, man. Tell him what's going on, and give him the little parameters about praying. And he starts off by saying, Dear Heavenly Father, and thank you for this, that, and the other. And I know it's working. I'm going to tell you why, Jay, because it's not been a time yet that my son has not related his prayers to his classmates that got on yellow or got on red to help little Jeremiah, can you please, pray for my classmates who got on red, hope they're not in trouble. But you know what, to have a straight answer like that, when you put God first, you know that you're doing his work, that when my son even talks to the Lord and not to me, that the things that, because I said, who we are determines how we see others, and what they see is what they will be, that's when you know that the priorities of my parenting is working, and I think it's a direct correlation. It's a direct correlation to prioritizing, making sure that I'm parenting correctly, because if not, you can overexert yourself. I'm not going to lie. It's been times when he was 2 and 3 years old, we're going through these custody battles, I felt like I had to buy him all these things and, show him I'm a better dad, or just prove myself to him based on the time that I did have and with the schedule I did have. And to come to find out, man, listen, my son now, we stop at McDonald's or whatever. It's like, Daddy, why can't we just find something to eat at home? Or like, can't we just stay at home today or whatever if we want to go to Six Flags? So, over time, it is chess. It's not checkers raising any kid, and especially a young black male. But, one thing that I really believe in regards to looking at my son like a young Timothy, as I am talking to him like the Apostle Paul, is the fact that, remember Paul said in 1 Timothy that, gave him some advice before he went on to the other churches and to correct their false teachings or whatever, that he said, Timothy, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in speech, conduct, love, and in purity. So through my son's speech, like how he prays, and through his conduct versus saying, hey, Daddy, I don't want to go Six Flags, I just want to hang out with you, through his love for his classmates, his love for his mother and his grandparents and stuff like that, when he prayed, and also through purity, just pure innocence, that's when I know that my parenting priorities are aligned. I really do believe that, Jay. I really do. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I can attest to that. Christian did that. That was so funny. I'm now working on not intervening, so I'll have that one eye that opens. He'll be like,
right,
Jesus, please help me not jump in line anymore tomorrow, and I'll be like,
right.
What?
Right, it's still the beans. It's still the beans. That's awesome.
But I'm with you. One thing it did help me to see is, okay, well, I am actually helping him to see that, this is whom you need to ask for help. So he is indeed seeing me. And so I think that's a really excellent point on when your parenting is a priority, the reflection is going to be from what your child begins to do because they've seen it from you.
Right.
And so if you're busy and you're not there, then that's exactly what you're going to see your child start doing. And if you're gone
exactly
or all that, that's what they're going to start seeing. And so I like the fact that you do that. I love that prayer. We may have to steal it and talk to you later and tell me.
Yeah, go ahead. I got you. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You will be surprised at what comes out of his mouth. It's not even I don't even coach him up. I'd be like, just hey, dude, just think about your days, think about what's going on right now in the world, And his world is just school and his friends, right? So it's like, it's just a snapshot, but that's what he do for a living, right? And that's where he gets his character from, and that's where it starts at. And that's what we do for a living. This is what my character is, and like you say, what be mentor for him is like, hey, I sit next to Johnny in class, and I help him out with his work. So those things manifest into other great things, and he'll find out his calling and purpose very, very soon. So that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely awesome.
That's so cute. So Reggie, how do you balance your parenting, and if you could give some of the suggestions that you do to make sure you have that self-care and that balance in to some of our Source Nation? How do you keep that balance? What do you do?
Well, you know what? As we alternate weeks and stuff like that, and so in my downtime, I really don't have much of a life. I think my son is he definitely is my best friend. And outside of my friends, and my social life pretty much is Six Flags and going and do watching Power Rangers and stuff like that or whatever, and I buy into it, man. I'm the Red Ranger. I got a samurai sword back in the back of town, so it kind of it manifests into that. But outside of that, the downtime as far as me balancing the parenting in my personal life along my professional life, it's all in one. Because when I found out my calling and purpose, when Bishop Long talked to me when I was 16 years old, and when I lost my friends in the car accident or whatever, he spoke on several things. He was like, it's pretty much, it takes someone great to bring communities together, right? So when we lost those individuals, it brought people together. And, it said murderers and killers and rapists die every day. No one really cares. And he had me write down on a piece of paper that if money wasn't an issue, right? If I lost my mother and my father today in a car accident, my brothers got burnt alive in the house fire. I mean, the Bishop Long, he was painting this gruesome picture outside of Stevenson High School for me. I mean, I'm literally in tears at a 16-year-old kid. I literally lost 3 of my friends an hour prior to this conversation, and he just painted this picture that just it brought you to your knees. And he said, if nothing else mattered in this world, if money wasn't an issue, you lost everything that you have, write down on this piece of paper what you feel like your calling and purpose is. And up until about 6 years ago, I kept it to myself until I started getting an education. I started talking to other teens and stuff like that, inmates, and I still have this paper to this day. And it says 2 words. It says change lives. So it's just as simple as that. Yeah, so, it's changed lives. And so when you talk about balancing the personal life and professional life and parental life, you can't balance your calling and purpose to other things that you're not aligned with. So I can't say I go to strip clubs and this and that and another, or this, whatever the case may be. I'm not saying I don't have fun, but I don't deviate much from my calling and purpose and the balance of my life. It's either I'm challenging other people to help me find someone a new car, a new house, or helping someone out, or doing something positive and productive. And I do have my times that I just need to sit still and this and peace be still, but to balance the parenting stuff and everything else, it's not hard for me. Like I said, once you know thyself, and I think I got a good grip on it. But in regards to advice that that you asked me about as far as parents, listen, I am a stickler for education. Like I'm a John Maxwell guy, right? Like his 25 ways to win with people, or failing forward, right? Who we are determines how we see others. The bedrock principle, the mirror principle. You could train a person how to treat you. All these different things, right? One thing that I can say that a lot of times with parenting, or just in general, just balancing your professionalism with your parenting, or even dealing with co-parent, right? I'm going to leave with this right here. These 3 questions that, whether it be your parenting skills, whether it be your education you're trying to pursue, whether it be your career you're trying to balance, or your spirituality, or even your sexuality, wherever it is, relationships, whatever, all these things together, because all these things come into play when you're trying to raise a child, or even being a parent with your bills and stuff like that. It's either going to be a success or a failure, right? You agree with that? So it's no gray area in regards to, did you get the job or you didn't get the job? Did you even pay your bills or didn't you pay your bills, right? Do you have enough money to do it, or did you not have enough money to do it? So it's either a failure or success. So in closing, as far as advice, I don't know where I got it from. I don't know if I made it up one day, but about 3 years ago, I started asking my seniors these questions, 3 simple questions. I said, hey, wherever it is your calling and purpose is, what you want to do in your life, let me ask you a question. Do you fear success or do you fear failure? And I said, I'm going to ask it again before you raise your hand and you start talking or whatever. I said, hey, think about it now. I said, do you fear success or do you fear failure? So half of them say, hey, I fear success. Other half say I fear failure, right, for their own reasons, because, they give me all sorts of type of reasons why they fear failure or fear success, which is not a right or wrong answer. It's kind of like one of those 50-50 things, right? Then I said, by the end of these next two sentences, or these next 2 questions, you can figure out whether or not which one you fear, or you're going to be success, or you're going to be a failure. All right, the next question was this. I said, hey, guys, all right, instead of saying fear success or fear failure, if you take that F off of fear and replace it with an H, right, what does that spell? And they said, here, right? I said, from the time that you wake up in the morning, on Monday morning, all the way to Sunday till you lay your head down, even Sunday before you go to church or whatever you do, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, are you more likely to hear success, or are you more likely to hear failure in your life? What are you surrounded? Yeah, what do you hear? What do you actually hear on TV, from the time that you turn the TV on to the friends at school, to the radio stations? Like, we start manifesting things, right? There's like, I hear, based on my students, off Old National Gabby Road, right? Like, Mr. M, I hear positive things in your class, right? 90 minutes, but I said, no, it's 24 hours in a day, right? After you take these 90 minutes out, so these other 22 and a half hours, over 50% of the time, what are you going to hear? So success or failure? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, I hear failure, Mr. M. I said, okay. If you think you're a failure based upon what you hear and also what you fear, I said, to align your calling to purpose and advice that I have for parents and whatever, and also teenagers, whatever the case may be, who I talk to these kids, that if you take off the letter H in here and replace it with N, what does that spell? They said near. I said, okay, let me ask this question. This would define everything that you can change right now, because you're not predestined to be a failure or predestined to be a success. But if you put an N in front of that EAR, are you near success or are you near failure each and every day? So when I made mention of, you asked me a question about, as far as the parents and priorities and stuff like that. I said we put God first in our house. So I'm near the Lord each and every day, right? And the Lord is not a failure. Now, he's a success, right? So I hear the Lord each morning when I'm going to work as far as listening to my bell-ready prayer. And also when my son lays down at night that we're praying to God. We're asking for our strength, right? On Mondays, we're doing Motivation Mondays in my classroom. We listen to Eric Thomas, What's Your Why? You, Leave Your Mark, a lion and gazelle. We're feeding these things in these children that you can control your environment, right? So you can be around we all say we're a product of our environment. We started this interview and this conversation off by say, you know what? Hey, what's the biggest misconception of why these kids are misbehaving? I say, you know what? The first thing I said, the environment, right? The socioeconomic status, their father figures, right? Their lack of. They're not near these things. So we have opportunities to get around, to strike a kid or strike a parent to define their success or failures in their parenting practice or their careers or student or kids' failure or success. We have to understand that what are our kids hearing every day? Because what my son hears on the radio, is what I hear on the radio, right? The best thing I got from my son, I'll put the little rearview mirror on. I'll play the Kirk Franklin. I'll play, Juanita Bynum or whatever it can be. When my son's lips start to moving back there, he's lip singing the words back there. And I go and flip it over, put Juju on the beat. He does the same thing. That's when I know I'm winning, right? He has a clear balance, and I just believe that if you fear, you change that to hear, and you change it to near, you can define your parenting practices and also your balance and what are you doing right and what are you doing wrong. And it's all internal. And you can interpret it any way you want to. But I just know that wherever you're near each and every day and what you hear every day and what you see is what you will be. So, and you cannot turn away from the Lord, man.
That's good.
Right.
Oh.
So that's pretty much all I have for the advice piece of it, because it's not a cookie cutter way. It's just what we do in our home based on the cards that I've been dealt.
But I think that's been very, very helpful. And so, I wanted, because, this has been a series, and I think I was telling you about it a little bit, last night. This has been a series, and where I just wanted people to know that, what our role is as parents really matters. And whatever you want your kids to become, you are the first person that they're watching to make sure it happens. And so I wanted to take the excuse away from people saying, I got to go to work, I got to do these things, because here's a person I admire you so much, not only as a parent but as a man who is doing the darn thing and actually stepping in for other people who saying those other reasons and stuff like that. So before we go, I definitely wanted you to I had one more question about what are some important things that you want Mason to actually see when it comes to your daily living, because I want these parents to see that it is what we show them that will determine where they'll go. So what are some things you want to make sure Mason's watching with you?
Right. I think, my lifestyle doesn't change with my son in my life or he's with his mom. I want him to see consistency. I want him to see consistency. I want him to – I know exactly who my father is, right? I know exactly what he'll say right now if I call him asking $20. I do. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if he got paid or he didn't get paid or whatever. I just know exactly what he's going to say, or even my mom for that sake or whatever. But, I want my son to see consistency. I want my son to see – I'm not making my son to who I want him to be. I want to make him into what he wants to be and what God has called him to be. And one thing that I know that we're servants here on this earth, that we're selfless people. I want him to see that as a selfless person, to take the high road, to turn the other cheek, to pray for your neighbors, whatever. And like I say, I take the lead in praying first, and he follows right behind me. So the biggest thing I want my son to captivate each and every day, that knowing that my son still brings up the time that, hey, where's Mr. Jeremy at? Mr. Jeremy was a roommate of one of 7 people that lived in the house, and I was making $14,000. See, it's no correlation to him, right, that, man, Daddy was struggling. We just got evicted out of there, right? I just told him we moved, right? And it's the fact that nothing changed. Jay, nothing changed. We still went to bed. We said the same thing. Who gives you strength? What makes you strong? You got to do what you got to do what you want to do. since she was 2 years old. So nothing changed. The environments have changed. We moved from house to house. We changed cars. We got evicted, got repoed, but the foundation hasn't changed. He never seen Daddy cry. He never seen Daddy complain about bills or this, that, and the other, whatever. But we do the same thing repetitiously through the good and the bad. So when I overcompensated myself when I got money and got a better job or whatever it could be, I wanted to do more. And guess what? My son, like, Dad, I really don't want to go to Six Flags. But I just paid $150 for these season passes, but it's the fact that it's resonated in his mind already that we don't have to do that, right? It's because of the consistency in regards to the value of what we have, and me and my son have each other. I know he has my back. I have his back 150. So that's what I want him to see. I think that's what he sees each and every day.
I love it. So before we leave, I know we got to wrap it up because I know it keeps moving for you. Your clock keeps going. And so I do want you to be able to tell Source Nation how can they get in touch with you if they have more questions and just want to get you as a mentor or whomever they need for you to be. So how can they get in touch with you?
Right. I mean, they can email me directly or whatever. Anything that so I'm involved with 100 Black Men of America, and I have a tutoring service, and we do spiritual guidance, anything that you may need. If they're coming from you, Jay, I'm all for it. But so they can get in contact with me via email at gsuwr86@hotmail.com. And number again, my email is gsuwr86@hotmail.com. Or they can even follow me on Instagram. It's just gsuwr86.
Love it. And I thank you so much, Reggie. This has been so insightful. And I know Mason we need to just look for him to definitely be mayor, doctor, pastor. He's definitely going to be somebody great. And so you're doing such an awesome job. And so we thank you, and thank you so much for being on the show. And I know you got to get to that next, so thank you for just stopping in and tuning in, and I will definitely be talking to you soon.
I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, man. Much success to you and your little man, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, all right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Source Nation, that was Reggie McCutchen. Reggie did an awesome job with just really shining some light on balancing, being a professional as well as being a parent. And so I just want to reiterate some of the take-home that I heard him say, and that was his priority has been to keep God at his center and keep God first. And being that model that he wants to be for God in the kingdom to trickle down to his son. And so he mentioned a lot of things about just having that balance by keeping God in the center and the priority and making sure his son stays the priority. And something that really, really stuck that I do myself and that my son actually had to remind me of is that they really actually do like the simple things in life. And so a lot of the times that we are working toward these big fancy cars or these big houses that have so many rooms and all these things, and the kid is just like, or the child is just like, man, Mom, Dad, can we just sit down for dinner? Can we just watch a movie together? And so really recognizing that the kids are actually way more simple than we are. And so being very mindful of that whose dream is it? And so their dream most likely is to just sit down, have dinner, sit down, watch a movie, sit down and pray together, sit down and have you pretend or show them how to do their homework and color with them and just be their superhero for that day. And so remembering that. And so as you try to strive toward this balance, remembering the small, simple things really impresses our children. And so Reggie shines some great light on what that looks like as a person who is track and field. He's headed to a track meet right now, to a 6-year-old son, to co-parenting in the midst of it as well, staying communicating with his son's mom, as well as still being this man that he wants to be to the community. And so he's one of my dearest friends that I definitely admire. And so hopefully you picked up some really great things that he had to say when it came to having this balance. And so, again, I just want to remind you that as we climax this series with intentional parenting, it is just that, to be intentional about how we parent and recognizing that our role actually does make a difference. And what you display in front of your child is exactly who your child is going to display out to the world, to the classroom setting, to their friends, to the family, everywhere. And you are their first eyes. So be intentional with what you show your children. And I just want to kind of just cap on like the whole month with the awesome guest last week on communication and just how important it is to communicate to your child and how important it is to work on our own stuff that we learned from Dr. Stevenson, and just really just knowing that these things are indeed important when it comes to being intentional. And so I hope that this series actually has been helpful, and I hope that you'll continue to tune in next month as we just really just work on breaking these cycles that are happening within our homes, within our families, within parenting, and just really just rebuild and redefine the culture of our families and our community. And so I have more definitely in store next month for you. And so I do hope that you tune in and continue to listen and pay attention to your role. So my advice definitely would be to take a look at the mirror first. Take a look at the role that you are playing as a parent. Ask yourself, is that added to the person I want my child, my son or daughter to see? And if it doesn't, what steps do I now need to make those changes? And as always, I'm open to emails. I'm open to search my website or to be followed on Twitter if you ever at all have any questions about, hey, teacher, how can I communicate with this person? How can I build this better relationship with my child, my teenager? And so my contact information is, my email is jabryant1913@gmail.com, and I can be reached at Twitter at Jaketra B. And the website is www.b3mentalperformances.com. And so I definitely hope that you do reach out to me. And as always, I am still looking for those quotes and any poems that can be related to some of our topics, and yours might get read. The quote that I have had all month, I really want to dissect that and sit on that as we climax the show. And it says that parenting isn't a practice. It's a daily learning experience. So as long as you're being a student to parenting and you're forever able to humble yourself to learn and to grow and to change and to alter, to make sure that your child can develop into the person that you have in your vision for them, then things will be a lot better. So parenting isn't a practice. It's a daily learning experience. And so I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Family Mix Mondays. And I am your host, Jaketra Bryant. Tune in next week as we start a brand new series, and I will see you next week.
We'll be back, Source Radio Network, after this commercial break.